Testing audio, testing audio, testing audio, testing audio.
I would take your advice on specific because I have a lot of thoughts about but if I run a platform like that, I would like to know my priorities. Obviously, the past is the past. But it seems to be just the increase.
I think too that if they where students who want to work, basically high school, who don't like coming in to do the football cheerleader, there's like an online academy for all of the high schools. There's one someplace else, but for a group of teachers who want to work, so that these kids can get home, get their work done, turn in, and get their diploma just like anybody else would. Because that's what they want to do. They want, they just want to be done. There's an idea about that. It's on the school board.
Audio test.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
If I move this, you get the MiFi. Is that what that is?
Anyone who's not on the committee? see one hand. Oh, there we go. We got a couple in the back. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. How many first-time visitors do we have in this meeting? And please tell me your name.
My name is Jackie Johnson.
Jackie, thank you for being here. What brings you to Arlington Democrats this evening? Please tell me your name.
I'm very tired of losing my rights.
Thank you so much for being here. And you, sir?
Yeah, my name is Tony Schreiner, and I'm with the Arlington Young Democrats. We are here to sort of build a stronger relationship between our two organizations.
Awesome. Tony, thank you so much for being here. We always love it when the Arlington Young Democrats show up. Again, welcome everybody to our June membership meeting. I want to welcome our elected officials as well. See, we have Paul Ferguson in the front of the room. Carla De La Pava in the back of the room. Margot Horner, our 8th District Chair. Jonathan Dromgoole, our D-Love President for the Democratic Party of Virginia. Barbara. School board member Barbara Kennedy.
I know the legislators are in session today. They're down.
Legislators are possibly working on a budget right now, so we'll give them a pass. Thanks everyone for being here. We got a really packed agenda tonight, and I do just want to say a couple words. You know, the recent tragic events in Uvalde have really sort of shaken this nation once again. The assault weapons ban expired in 2004, and violent assaults with assault weapons have tripled since that time. Days after that attack, which killed 19 students and 2 teachers, the National Rifle Association had the audacity to have their annual meeting just a few short hours away, and every Republican legislator, Ted Cruz, Greg Abbott, stood up at that meeting and talked about hardening schools and taking doors out of schools, as if the fire marshal would approve such a thing, and having school resource officers, which the Uvalde school did have. We have absolutely got to band together and stop this ridiculous narrative that we don't need common sense gun safety. We absolutely do need to have more common sense gun safety. Over 300,000 kids have been faced with an active shooter in their school since Columbine. It's unacceptable. And absolutely, this is an equity issue. This affects Black and brown people more so than the general community. Examples are Uvalde, Buffalo, the church in California. We have absolutely got to come together and fight for more common sense gun safety. So thank you all for being here to help with that. Again, we've got a packed agenda. Can we go to the next slide?
Maybe everyone should wear orange this weekend. It's the wear orange.
Wear orange this weekend. We've got something coming up next weekend, so hang in there. Patrick Hope is now in the house. Patrick, welcome. That's our agenda for tonight. Next slide, please. And so, in addition to wearing orange tomorrow, please come out next Saturday. We're going to join the March for Our Lives in D.C. There is a Mobilize event up now. I think we're going to create a Facebook event here shortly, later this evening. I know Becky is working on a calls to action with a few things that we can do. So watch for that in the next 24 hours, but do not miss this. Go to Mobilize, watch that Facebook event pop up, and I hope people will sign up and come out and march with March for Our Lives next Saturday, June 11th. I believe the march starts at 10 a.m. at the Washington Memorial. We will convene somewhere nearby and head over that way to see you there.
Event in Alexandria in the evening.
Great. Thanks so much, Steve. We're going to keep it moving. Because again, we do have a pretty good agenda. And we're going to start this off by talking about what's coming up in June. And as everybody knows, June is Pride Month. So I'm going to invite our Equality Caucus chair, Jonathan Dromgoole, in one of his many roles, to come up and tell us what's in store for June. Jonathan?
Hi everyone. So as Steve just mentioned, I'm going to try to move this mic. We'll see if it works. As Steve just mentioned, my name is Latino Caucus of your Democratic Party, which does not stand for the Equality Caucus, but that's another hat I wear here. And thank you to Steve and Mike and everyone else for inviting me here to just share a few words about this month. So in the next slide, as was just mentioned, it is Pride Month. So officially today, June 1st, kicks off the 2022 Pride season. And even though it is 1 month that we're fortunate enough to have to celebrate, really Pride is a year-long process. It is a year-long celebration for those of the LGBTQ community and its allies, along with Hispanic Heritage Month, Asian American History Month. LGBTQ History and Pride Month is where the entire year. So we have a packed agenda for the Equality Caucus that I'm going to walk through. That's shared in conjunction also with DPVA's LGBTQ Caucus. But in the next slide, we're very happy to announce that we now officially have an Instagram account. So in addition to having a Facebook page, a Facebook group, which is meant to be private for the community and its allies to come share updates and share things that are going on in the community, we wanted to make sure there was a more public-facing page for our Equality Caucus. So thanks to the help of our ArlDems comms team, we now have an Instagram. It is live. That is our handle. If you, as we're all familiar with QR codes now, if you take a picture of that, it'll take you straight to it. Please follow us, like the post, share the post, help us build a community momentum there, so we're able to echo the activities of this month, but also what is happening with the LGBTQ community here in Arlington and Arlington Democrats. And so in the next slide, a couple of the events coming up. So as mentioned, June is a busy month, and DC Capitol Pride is hosting a lot of its events next weekend. So while you're going to be out there marching for our lives on June 11th, if you stick around in DC that afternoon, the Capitol Pride Parade will also be happening that evening. So it's a great progression for you to continue fighting for equality and for rights for all here in Arlington and across the country. So we will actually be there as well on June 12th, which is the following day on Sunday, for the block party or the block parade in partnership with LGBTQ Democrats and in conjunction with a couple of the other equality caucuses across Virginia. We will have the morning shift, and then we'll be replaced by an afternoon shift that will also come in. We'll be there registering voters, sharing information about what ArlDems is doing, but really what Democrats are doing for the LGBTQ community overall. And then in the next slide here in Arlington on June 15th, there will be an official LGBTQ Pride proclamation. This will be taking place at noon at Courthouse. It is open to the public. We'll also be sharing this on social media, but encourage all of you to attend and show support for the LGBTQ community right here in Arlington. And finally, and its own Pride festivities right here at Gateway Park. We are finalizing a partnership and a sponsorship with that as well. And so we'll have a space, we'll have an ability to also register voters, talk about the great work that Arlington Democrats and the Democrats are doing for the community, but it's also a great opportunity to show support for the first Pride Parade that is taking place formally and officially here in Arlington. So we're very excited to have representation and opportunity to be there in DC, but also an opportunity to have our own event here in Arlington. And so finally, with a lot of these great events, we need help. By we, I mean there's really two of us who are really doing a lot of this work, it's myself and it is Kevin. The June 12th event, and volunteers to help us staff the event on June 25th. So again, this QR code will take you to a link tree, and there is a form, a Google form there that you can fill out. If you also now follow us on Instagram, there is also a link tree there where you'll be able to get this information. LGBTQ Dems will also be sharing this, so just please make sure to share it far and wide to make sure we have volunteers from Arlington Dems there representing the community, representing allies, and really just showing up in support of all the great work that we're going to be doing. So again, thank you all for having us here. We're really excited for the work that I'm going to stick around in the back for a couple of minutes, but I do have to go. Along with it being the start of Pride and a busy day for me who also works in LGBTQ policy and politics, it is also my wedding anniversary. So it was intentional to make sure our wedding happened on the first day of Pride here in DC, but that also comes with the downside of at the start of Pride. It's also my wedding anniversary, so a very busy day. But I'll stick around in the back for a couple of minutes in case somebody has any questions or wants to connect, but happy to be contacted via social media. Thank you all.
Mike?
Mike?
Hey, what's up, Arlington Democrats?
What's up, Mike?
Y'all awake out there? Yeah. Y'all awake out there?
Yes!
Hey, my name's Big Mike. I'm the deputy chair. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about Juneteenth, but before we do, I want to give a couple shout outs to John and our caucuses. Let's talk about our caucuses first. About 2 years ago, we had 2 caucuses. Today, there's more than 12. There's more than 1,000 people in our community that are engaged. Where our party is bigger and better and stronger than it's ever been before, and it's partly due to our caucuses. So I'm so proud of the work that they're doing. But also, I think you may know the housing commission. So I give a shout out for last week, 2 weeks ago, Mikasa Sukasa.
Yeah, that was with D-Love. It was probably a week or 2 ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you get the chance, there's a lot of incredible information about making housing more accessible and affordable. I was very impressed. I'm impressed. So Juneteenth is a combination of June and 19. It's the Juneteenth together. Whatever we do on 4th of July is what we do on Juneteenth as well. It's a day of freedom. It's the day that slaves were emancipated. Anybody know how long it took for the news to? Yeah, it happened in Texas. Yeah, 2 months. 2 months. This is Arlington Democrats. I should know, right? So the Black Caucus is going to be having a phenomenal event down in Jenny Dean Park. Anybody been out to Jenny Dean Park since it's been renovated? Amazing, spectacular park. So we'll be out there in that historically Black neighborhood. There's going to be food trucks, a go-go band. We'll be registering voters, connecting with the community. The chair of the DPVA Black Caucus will be here, in addition to many other speakers. So. Hours 2 o'clock.
2 to win.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5 to 8. We were 5 to 8 at the time. 5 to 8.
Thank you, Mike. We have special days. We invited Arlington's own Jamie Lockhart from Planned Parenthood. Jamie, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve, for having us. And I want to introduce to a couple of my colleagues here, Izzy Fizzle and Shreya. Izzy will be talking through some of the presentation this evening, but if we can start. See, slide six. Okay, so as Steve just mentioned, I'm Jamie Lockhart. I serve as Executive Director of Planned Parenthood Advocacy Virginia. We are the C4 political and advocacy arm of Planned Parenthood here in the Commonwealth. And we work with 3 Planned Parenthood affiliates. So Planned Parenthood of Metro Washington, which has a health center in Washington, D.C. Virginia League for Planned Parenthood, which has health centers in Richmond and Hampton Roads. And then also Planned Parenthood South Atlantic, which has a health center in Charlottesville and in Roanoke. And so tonight, I want to talk about the state of abortion access, which I know, I'm sure many of you are following this, want to talk about what's going on nationally, what's happening here in the Commonwealth, and then how you can get involved. 1973 Supreme Court decision. But we know that abortion is under attack across the country, that states like Texas passing SB 8, a Sue Thy Neighbor 6-week abortion ban, and then Oklahoma just passing a total ban, and then states across the country having kind of unenforced bans on the books. And then I want to be clear about the state of abortion access here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Abortion is legal here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Abortion will be legal when the Supreme Court officially announces their decision in the Jackson Women's Health Organization v. Dobbs case. And we will be fighting to protect abortion for years to come here in the Commonwealth. Abortion is legal in Virginia through the second trimester. And in 2020, we successfully repealed a lot of restrictions on abortion here in the Commonwealth. So the Reproductive Health Protection Act passed in 2020. We repealed a 24-hour waiting period, a mandatory ultrasound, bias counseling, the targeted restrictions on abortion providers, as well as expanding access by allowing nurse practitioners and other advanced practice clinicians to provide early abortion care in the first trimester. And thank you, Delegate Hope, for your tremendous support and that was a great achievement of that unified democratic control in the General Assembly under the leadership of Governor Northam. But with all that being said, we have seen a lot of bad legislation being introduced. We saw a lot of bad legislation introduced this session. We saw a 20-week abortion ban be introduced. We saw a reinstatement of a number of restrictions and even additional restrictions. And to be clear, we are one Senate seat away from having Virginia turn into other states in the South. We know just how critically important these 2023 elections are to taking back the House of Delegates, making sure that we grow the majority in the state Senate, and then eventually winning back the statewide offices. So if you want to go on next. It was devastating, it is devastating what the Supreme Court is likely to do, but I want to be clear that Roe is the floor, it's not the ceiling, and that for a lot of people, Roe has been meaningless for many years. Mississippi has one abortion provider, Louisiana has 3, Missouri has one that's not even really helping patients out in a lot of ways. So for a lot of people, they haven't had access for years, even with the federal constitutional protection. And then there's the Hyde Amendment, which was passed in 1976, just 3 years after Roe, and put into law that federal funds could not be used for abortion care. So that means that low-income folks, people who are on Medicaid, in most states across the country do not have the ability to use their health insurance to access care. So when we're talking about accessibility, we really need to be focused on those who have the toughest access to care, and knowing that a lot of folks are really prevented by accessing care because of the Hyde Amendment and other state restrictions. And then want to talk about the Reproductive Health Equity Act, and that's kind of our North Star and where we're going. So that's legislation that's been proposed in past sessions to really change that, make it so that reproductive health care is accessible to anyone, no matter their income, their immigration status, and that's contraception, that's abortion care, and more. So really making sure that as we talk about abortion access, we're not just talking about how we protect and get to a Roe standard, but how do we make care actually accessible for people, no matter their zip code, their immigration status, their income level. And so the Jackson Women's Health Organization v. Dobbs is the case that we're all waiting for, anticipating a decision to come that last week of June, but it could come, any day now that the Supreme Court is announcing cases. That's about a 15-week abortion ban that passed a few years ago in Mississippi. It was heard December 1st. As y'all know, the Supreme Court is not in our favor. There was a leaked draft, and this will very much change the landscape of reproductive rights and abortion across the country. What this means for Virginia, so I just mentioned the next slide, mentioned that abortion will remain legal, but we know that there's an anti-abortion governor, there is an anti-abortion majority in the House, and then also a tie in the state Senate. And we also know that in addition to abortion remaining legal for now in Virginia, that a lot of folks will travel to Virginia to seek care. That's not only because, and I'll show in a moment kind of the map that we're working with, but it's also because Virginia doesn't have these really onerous obstacle course of restrictions like a lot of other states. So North Carolina to our south has a 72-hour waiting period. So if you can imagine, a patient has to go in to see a provider, and then they have to come back then 3 days later to actually receive care. So for some people, they might be in other southern states, you know, easier to take a one-day trip to Virginia than it is to go to other states that might be closer to them because of other restrictions. So next slide, just talking about this map. So you can see how the South and Midwest access will likely be decimated, and that there are 13 states that have what are known as trigger bans, trigger laws that would immediately go into effect once, immediately or within 30 days go into effect once there's a decision overturning Roe v. Wade. And then we anticipate that there's an additional 13 states that are likely to move quickly. So a number of states are talking about going into a special session to further restrict access. And there's a lot of also bans that have been passed that are currently unenforceable at different gestational stages. So depending on what the Supreme Court ultimately says, you know, whether a 6-week ban goes into effect or 12-week, 15-week, like Tennessee has passed them all, knowing that whatever the Supreme Court decides, they basically have a ban ready to go. And I mentioned North Carolina. So North Carolina is very critical for access in the South. I would say North Carolina and Florida. Florida is also very critical. Florida the Supreme Court in the past has recognized constitutional protection in Florida, but Florida now has a more conservative Supreme Court. So that's not as likely to hold. North Carolina has critical state elections this year. So in addition to us supporting the congressional candidates, our team will also be looking for ways to support some candidates in North Carolina, because North Carolina has a Democratic pro-reproductive rights governor and Governor Cooper, but North Carolina has pretty strong Republican majorities in the House and Senate, and if they lose 4 seats in their House and they lose a few seats in their Senate, they have Republican supermajorities that could override Governor Cooper's veto. So it's going to be very critical in this tough election year to make sure, and post-redistricting, that North Carolina and they also, unfortunately, have several anti-abortion Democrats. So, making sure there are Democrats. So a little bit about kind of how to talk about this case, and JU as kind of an abbreviation for Jackson Women's Health Organization. So I think it's changed a lot in the last month with the leak. Before, we were seeing a huge what we called a believability gap, where if you ask Americans if they thought Roe v. Wade could be overturned, they say no, absolutely not. It's safe. And only kind of 30% of Americans before were believing that Roe v. Wade was even under threat. But obviously now with the leak, more people know that this is coming. But just to be clear with folks, I'm talking about this is not a drill. This is not hyperbole. This is millions of people. This is 30 million plus people who are likely to lose access to abortion care as a result of this decision. Want to be clear when you're talking to folks that abortion will remain legal in Virginia. One of the things that we see when there's cases like this is that there's a lot of patient confusion. There's a lot of people who, because they're watching the national news, they will think that they will lose access. And kind of confusion about what reproductive health care is available to them. And then also, I'm going to talk a little bit about how important language is. So we really want to be clear about this being a decision between an individual and their medical provider, versus talking about a woman and her doctor. We want to use intersexual language. We want to acknowledge that women need abortions, trans men need abortions, non-binary individuals need abortions. So I think on this first day of Pride Month, if you can join me in using some intersexual language and make sure that we're acknowledging that many different bodies need abortion care. And also want to acknowledge that Virginia has made great progress in expanding access beyond allowing a doctor to acknowledge the great progress that Delegate Hope and our legislature made in allowing nurse practitioners to provide this care, because we know, especially in rural communities, it's really hard to get providers in there because there's just not that access. But when you can have nurse practitioners, certified nurse midwives providing this care, you're really expanding out access. And then I'm going to talk a little bit just more about language on the next slide. So some other things on kind of how to talk about abortion. And also I'll just say too, please use the word abortion. I know there's lots of euphemisms and people want to talk about choice or reproductive rights. But if you really mean abortion, we encourage you to say abortion, because then people know exactly what you're talking about. So I just talked about why it's great to say medical professionals or clinicians have different choices, but ultimately we want them to be able to make the decision to have an abortion. We talking about abortion or ending a pregnancy versus using the term terminate, which kind of is a scarier term. And then also saying complex or personalization and not attaching judgment like heartbreaking or tragic. Because when you say something is heartbreaking, you're adding stigma saying that it's a bad decision, where a lot of people, the most common emotion people feel after an abortion is relief. And so not adding that additional stigma by saying something that is heartbreaking. Talking about a fetal diagnosis versus an anomaly, which people don't know what the word anomaly means, but making sure that abortion care is available for people for all different reasons, including a fetal diagnosis. And then also just want to address keeping abortion safe and legal, and not saying keeping abortion rare, because we know abortion is rare in Mississippi, abortion is rare in Louisiana, abortion right now is super rare in Texas, and that's a bad thing. When people are talking about it being rare, I think a lot of times what they intend to say is reduce the rate of unintended pregnancy. And I think we can all agree we want to reduce the rate of unintended pregnancy, but not saying that in a way of making it rare, because when it's rare, people who have access, who need access, do not have that access. Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Izzy to talk about now what you can do to help.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for having us tonight. My name's Izzy. I am the NOVA community organizer with PCAV, so if you have any questions, if you're looking to get involved at all, please feel free to reach out. My contact information will be at the end of this as well. I would love to meet with each and every one of you to kind of talk to you and talk about how you can get involved and how we can all work together to make abortion access available and also just protect reproductive rights. So in this moment, sort of what can we do? I know there's a lot of fear, anxiety, and I think it's important that we channel that into action. So spread awareness, talk about abortion, talk about this issue with your friends and family. Make sure that people know not only that this is not a fire drill, but also make sure we are doing that work of talking about how abortion will remain legal in Virginia, even after SCOTUS comes out. We talk about how Virginia will be a safe haven for abortion access, and we want to make sure that people know that, because we never want someone to be confused or be hearing misinformation. Taking action with the local volunteer team. In a couple slides, I will show some upcoming events that we have, including one tomorrow night, but we are always doing events both about abortion and also some of the caucuses here in Arlington, and really just are doing all things to take action. We have a couple different rapid response teams. So we have one that is our SCOTUS rapid response team and one that is our protest rapid response team. This is how you will become, if you join these listservs, which I can get you that info, it is how you will get the first-hand information about what action we are taking and how to respond as quick as possible. And then meet with your organizer. That's me. Like I said, I love to meet with folks, hear how we can partner more as organizations, how we can host different events. And then lastly, donate to abortion funds. We know that the most important thing we can do right now is help provide financial support and direct support to the patients who are going to continue to need care. And even, I think in the first week, a lot of donations to some of the local abortion funds, making sure we're continuing to support, giving our monthly donations and really helping fund this important care. If you go to the next slide, just some of those abortion funds, including some of our local ones here. Our closest one here is the DC Abortion Fund. Blue Ridge Abortion Fund, New River Abortion Fund Access Fund, some down in Richmond and Hampton Roads. So just making sure that we, as well as, donating to our many other causes, are also providing this direct care. And then lastly, just the upcoming event. So tomorrow night at 6 p.m., I'm going to be hosting a NOVA regional strategy session. This is really going to be a brainstorming session for us to come together and say, okay, what actions can we take? Part of this is going to be going into breakout rooms that are more specific to our geographic locations, because NOVA is pretty big, to talk about, okay, if we wanted to take action here in Arlington, what are some locations we could do? What are some actions we could take? So really would love to have as many of y'all join that event tomorrow night as possible, so we can make sure that we are getting ideas from people across Northern Virginia and really making sure that everyone's voices are heard. And then lastly, make sure, copy down my contact info. That is my little calendar. You can schedule time anytime on my calendar on there to meet with me. We can also grab coffee, meet virtually, and I have business cards as well. Would love to meet each and every one of you, because we know this is a marathon, not a sprint, so want to make sure that we're making these relationships and really focusing on providing care for years to come. Thanks, y'all.
We have a QR code in the back, and I have some others where you can scan to get our link tree to sign up for all the things that we talked about. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you, Planned Parenthood, for being here. We are your partners in this fight, so we will be with you every step of the way this summer to help elect Democrats up and down the ballot to fight for abortion rights in this country. We are very fortunate to have our chair of the school board, Barbara Camden, to come up and give us a report about Arlington Public Schools.
All right, thank you, Chair Baker. Good evening, Arlington Democrats.
Good evening.
Okay, are we getting, who's doing the slides? We lost our slide person. Group of 5 passionate, smart, deeply caring individuals, terrific public servants, and most importantly, all year long, they have kept the main thing. And that focus is really going to pay off for our students, for our school system, and for Arlington overall. Really, really proud to serve with this group of individuals. I say that because you may or may not know that on July 1st, just 1 month from tonight, the school board has its organizational meeting. So we're 6 months off from what the county board does. So on July 1st, we will be electing our new chair and new vice chair, and starting off and getting ready for the next school year. So 10:30 a.m. on July 1st. You can tune in from home. You can watch a live stream, and of course you can come. If you have seen me speak anywhere, anytime this year, you know that the first thing I do talk about is our students. It should always be the first thing we talk about, but this year more than ever, it has been extremely These young people have been going through this very difficult time as young people who are still developing and growing. I've been talking a lot about their needs and how this is a long-term investment that we need to make to really support them over the long haul. But I also, so tonight, rather than talking about their needs, I want to talk about them. When I started on the school board, these folks were in 5th grade. I can't claim to know all of the graduates, but I have seen these students, I've seen their artwork, I've seen their extreme smarts and the amazing things they do. But let me tell you, think about what they've been through, not just the pandemic. They're looking at the potential fall of Roe v. Wade right now. They've been through Me Too. They've been through George Floyd and Black Lives Matter. They have been through multiple school shootings in their lifetimes. And you have probably seen that they're starting to talk. They have been getting out while students over many years. These students are learning to use their voices. It's an incredibly impressive set of young people that we have right here in Arlington. I could not be more proud of them. But let me tell you, we've seen those visible things when they do those walkouts, but I can tell you as one school board member, and I know my colleagues would agree with me, that we also see them whether we're out at the schools hearing from them, you know, directly one-on-one, whether they're coming to our school board meetings to speak as public speakers, because students do that. More than anything, they stand up for their friends. And one of the things I love about them, they truly believe, not just in their friends, but everyone who's in their school building. They believe in fairness, they believe in inclusion, they love the diversity of Arlington, and they show up and advocate and stand up for their friends. They're watching out for their mental health more than anything. Again, just a tremendous group of young people, and I could not be more proud of them. Really excited for the graduation. You can watch their graduations. They're all going to be on television also and live streamed. And of course, if you can get a seat, many of these, especially our smaller celebrations, you can just go if you'd like. Let me also remind you, as we're talking about how amazing these kids are, you're going to see around Arlington, sometimes you'll see a student in a graduation gown or any of these other end-of-the-year kinds of things that young people might be wearing that shows they're doing something, whether it's a choral concert or something else they're doing. Give them a shout out across the street. You'll see the people with the yard signs, you know, graduate class of 2022, be like, hey, congratulations if you see them on their porch. It is a wonderful time for us all to be a little bit more of a community. These kids love it to be celebrated. They really in a way, and congratulations on everything that they have accomplished. So I'm going to now try to whip through a few things that the school board's been doing to focus on these kids. And the main one is our budget. Thank you, Delegate Hope. We now have a state budget as of this afternoon. That means we can now finalize our budget a little later than most of us were wanting to. But we have I'm really excited about the budget we were able to put together this year. I'm not going to go through all of these lines, but again, we really focus on students. We're bringing class size back down after we had to actually stretch them a little bit as we've struggled with our budget the last few years. We're investing in really great new English language arts and math curriculum resources. Some of you have heard the Advocacy. A lot of it has been centered from Arlington, talking about the science of reading, better reading, instructional materials. We are investing in how to teach our kids as well as possible. And next slide. The biggest investment we're making in this budget, though, is for our staff. When I joined the school board, we were one of the highest paying school districts in the region. That is so important to recruit and retain the very best for our students. Again, because we've been stretched and other school systems were competing with us, we fell behind in terms of our own compensation plans. And we really worked this year to build a compensation plan that's going to get our staff back up at least in the top 3. Our bus drivers are going to be #1 best paid in the entire region. We really did a lot of work to make sure that we could pay our teachers and staff good, competitive, fair wages. I see Mr. Malinowski here from Jefferson. I'm sure we have some other teachers and staff in the room. And again, we can't thank you all enough for what you do every day. But we're really excited about what we're doing. I'm going to talk for a minute about how we also put in place with this budget the staffing that we need to engage in collective bargaining. And I'll talk about that in just a moment. So yeah, hold your applause till I do the slide on collective bargaining. Back to the previous one. Okay, so right now, we're not done with this process, but the big process we do at the end of the year is our capital improvement plan. This is when we talk about everything we need to do to make sure that all of our buildings are wonderful for our students so they have systems. So right now, we're working on that plan. It's our first 10-year plan in 4 years, because normally we do a 10-year plan every 2 years, but in the middle of the pandemic, we weren't able to do that because of the uncertainty with revenues, and that was, of course, in conjunction with the county board. By the way, Chair Crystal is here. Let me just say a quick shout out. I'm looking out back there. So we're putting together our 10-year plan, and there are 3 things I want you to know about this. One is year in, year out, in our capital improvement plan, we always put a lot of funding into major infrastructure across those 4 things like that. You hear about the crumbling schools across the Commonwealth of Virginia, and it's something we all need to do more for, but school buildings in Arlington are well maintained. We consistently put those funds in to make sure that we're doing a good job with that. We're also, if you've seen us talk in the last few years, you know we've been talking about our tremendous student population growth and how we've been trying to just catch up with actual buildings and seats. Well, we've kind of hit the glide path on that now. All the building that we did do has actually sort of caught us up with our growth. We're continuing to grow and change in Arlington, so there's always more planning we need to do. But what's wonderful is we can now get back to what we were doing before the tremendous growth stage 10 years ago, which is renovating and rebuilding the oldest schools in our system. So some of you may remember Nottingham Elementary, Glebe Elementary, some buildings like that when they were built new again. We are going to be able to start doing that. So some of our oldest schools in our school system will now be renovated. So that's we're starting to plan for that. But the big part of our CIP is the Career Center building. If you've been following, you know that we've been talking about this building for a very long time. Ed program take place. This is where our newest high school program called Arlington Tech exists, and that is a growing program. It's a STEM-based, project-based program with an advanced diploma. Many students can take dual enrollment courses and actually graduate with an associate's degree. Tremendous opportunity. We have a program called the Program for Employment Preparedness for our young adults with special needs to help get them the job skills they need to thrive as young adults in our community. We have an English Learner Institute in this building, and also a program called the Academic Academy, which is for students who are struggling in their home high schools, and they get the personal support that they need and the academic building up that they need to be able to graduate. So there are a lot of tremendous things happening in this building, a lot of things that we want to be able to see grow, and we are going to finally be able to build a brand new, wonderful facility. It's going to have state-of-the-art labs and all the facilities that are needed for our auto tech program and cosmetology, but also website design and cybersecurity and all these different wonderful STEM project-based opportunities for our students. It's really, really wonderful. Spending a little bit of time on this right with you now because this is what we're going to be talking about in the fall when we talk about the school bond. And so this is a big part of what we're going to be asking the community to support when we go to our November referendum. And we are, of course, going to be bringing that to you all in the hopes that you will be supporting that, the school bonds as well as all of our county bonds, of course, for the Democratic sample ballot. So a lot more to talk about with this, but we're really excited. This is going to open in 2025. And, really, really wonderful opportunity for our students. Following our county board, Arlington Public Schools became the second, I think it is our understanding that we are the second school system in Virginia to engage, to approve through a resolution that we will begin the process of collective bargaining with our staff. And this, of course, again, is thanks to what was our Democratic legislature at the time that enabled the opportunity for boards to approve this new approach. We haven't had collective bargaining in Arlington since the 70s, something like that. Long, long time. So we're really excited. I don't care if we were the second board, not the first. What matters is that we put the effort into developing a really good resolution. Essentially, what the first stage of it is setting the rules of the game, putting everything down so that everyone understands how this process is going to work. This is just the beginning. You're now going to see over the course of this coming year those three groups that we've defined. Licensed personnel, those being sort of our teachers, right? Support personnel, and then our administrators. Those are three bargaining units that we've defined. Those folks can now, pursue how they're going to organize, elect their leaders, and then ultimately engage with our new Director of Labor Relations and start building that, collective bargaining together. So you're going to see all that playing out, but the first step, of course, was the approval of our resolution, and we did do that last Thursday. I'm very, very proud of this board and the work that everyone did, especially our superintendent, in getting this ready and done. Okay? Just a couple quick things. So, we try as much as we can, especially now, to talk about our amazing staff in Arlington Public Schools. And this, what we call the Celebration of Excellence, is one way that we celebrate them. We have every school has a Teacher of the Year, we have Support Staff of the Year. Many of these folks who do tremendous work, and we do come together once a year and celebrate the nominees from all over Arlington Public Schools. It's a really terrific evening, and I just wanted to show you those photos because we just need to thank and celebrate our staff as much as we can. So I wanted to share those photos with you. And then I also wanted to share something we did this year that the school board has never done before. and that is that we awarded a lifetime Honored Citizen Award. So we honor a number of our volunteers every year in our Arlington Public Schools, but this year we identified a person that many of you may know, Judy Haddon, who was an honored citizen about 30 years ago because she did so much for Arlington Public Schools then, and she has continued to be an amazing stalwart and champion in so many ways for youth in Arlington and been engaged with the schools. One of her most recent advocacies has been for mental health and supporting our students, and the development of the Teen Network Board was part of what she did as well. So we wanted to give her a special award, and I wanted to share that with you also because it's a great reminder of how we are strong in our school system because our community continues to invest and advocate and believe in us and work for us in so many ways. So she's amazing. A lot of our volunteers are amazing, but we were really, really proud to be able to give her that award this year. And with that, you basically know how to find us. But if you have any questions or comments, please get in touch and let us know what you're thinking and any feedback you want to share about our school system. So with that, I want to thank you all very much, and go class of 2022. Thank
you. Thank you, Barbara. On schools?
We gotta move on.
We got a really tight agenda, so what?
Please stop taking questions.
Good. JD, go ahead.
No, it's a question for Barbara.
What?
It's a question for the president.
To Barbara.
Yes.
Please.
Okay. So Barbara, thanks for your presentation, and thank you, Steve, for allowing me to ask this question in this forum. So all great news. Bond referendum, collective bargaining, I'm on board. But you didn't talk about the issue at hand right now in our community, which is a literacy problem with our youth. Can you talk a little bit about that, what we're going to do the next 6 months to year to fix that?
Thank you, Barbara.
Sure, absolutely. There are lots of material I went through, so I did mention it very, very briefly, but I'll say again, one of the things that we invested in with this budget was a whole new curriculum, English Language Arts, pre-K through 12. And that is, the textbook company is Core Knowledge, and that is a curriculum based on the science of reading. And so it's exactly, as I said just a few minutes ago, exactly what many members of this community have been advocating for a very long time. So we are investing in the materials, we are investing in the professional learning and the supports and everything that it takes. There's a whole infrastructure, right, to get to teachers in the classroom. They need the training and the coaching within the school, and everyone there needs the training and coaching from above, so we're putting that entire infrastructure in place. The superintendent is strong on literacy. Right. He is one of the most amazing advocates and professionals on literacy that I've ever met. So we're in really, really, really good hands with him. I will also say, I know that you're talking about, there was an article that came out this week that covered our school board meeting from last Thursday where we had our English Language Arts report. What's important about that report is that we are being completely transparent with our data and what we have, where we are. That, if you've been following us over many years, has never happened in the way that it happened last Thursday, with a very clear presentation, a huge appendix with all sorts of data and ways that you can parse through and look at our different student groups, however you want to define students. You can look to see how they are doing. The fact that we are now being, and I credit the superintendent, this superintendent, with taking that step to make sure everyone on our staff knows our community needs to know where we are, what our challenges are, and they need to know what we need to do because we need our community to come along and support us. So I think what the superintendent did last week with that presentation, and then it was covered in the media, is the very best thing that could happen for literacy in Arlington. So the combination of being completely transparent, identifying our challenges, and if you watch the presentation, our staff talked about what we need to do, and then the investments we've made. I won't say we're here today on day one because these are all investments we're making, but I think we're on a terrific path. And again, I can't state any more strongly what a terrific instructional leader we have in Dr. Francisco Duran.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you for the question, JD. Appreciate it. We do have a packed agenda, so we are going to keep moving. We have our first voting item of the night. We have some new officers, appointed officers that the full committee will confirm. And for membership, we have Brian Coleman, who's with us today. Communications, we have Elizabeth Escobar and Sarah Lawrence. Do I have a motion to approve?
Approve.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Welcome to our Our second voting item is the school board endorsement vote. As many of you know, about a month ago, we had 2 filed candidates for our school board endorsement vote process. One of those candidates subsequently withdrew, left us with 1 filed candidate, Bethany Sutton. The rules that we approved earlier in the year stated that if we approach this date with 1 filed candidate, then it's up to the county committee to determine whether or not that proposed endorsee effectively represents the principles of the Democratic Party. And I need a motion on the floor to that effect. Craig?
I move that the Arlington County Democratic Committee adopt and endorse and designate Bethany Sutton as the Democratic nominee for Arlington County School Board.
Endorsing. Thank you. Second. And Carol Burnett, second. All right, the rules do allow for a 10-minute discussion amongst committee members, the first 3 of which I'm going to give to, the rules give to Bethany Sutton, so we're going to invite her up to make some brief remarks.
Thank you. The room expanded since I was here 2 months ago. I really appreciate the opportunity to say a few words this evening. I want to speak briefly about values, community. Learn to be curious, thoughtful, and values-driven. Community service is a critical part of the mission of IB to prepare students to be citizens of the world. For me, that call to serve led to a long tenure of leadership on the Randolph PTA, as well as to participating in the Columbia Pike Partnership's Community Advisory Council, serving on the Arlington County Food Security Task Force, and serving on and now chairing the Advisory Council on Teaching and Learning. For the past 2 years also, working with an incredible team of volunteers, I led the Randolph Food Pantry, and in that work we were able to do 3 things. Help our neighbors and feed kids so that they could learn and grow. That our diverse families feel to the school and with each other, and bring the larger community into partnership with us, especially the Douglas Park neighborhood, but also individuals, groups, and other schools from across Arlington County. In many ways, my service to the community has been about bringing people together during a time that has been marked by a lot of distance. I'm also proud of the work that I led this year with the Advisory Council on Teaching and Learning. It's really important to dive deeply into student outcomes, and I appreciate the way that parents and community members come together through ACTL to support student learning and students' health and well-being, and to prioritize equity and inclusion in APS. In November, I hope to be chosen by the voters of Arlington to serve on the school board. Over the next 5 months, I will work hard to earn those votes. It's my intention to go broadly and deeply into our county and to listen to the voices of the full range of members of our community who are impacted by what happens in our schools. My father believed with all his heart that we were put on this earth to be useful. What I hope my record of service conveys
is that I want nothing more than to be useful. So it is with a strong sense of purpose and clarity about my values that I seek the endorsement of the Arlington Democrats and ultimately the support of many Arlingtonians for my candidacy for school board.
Thank you so much, Bethany, for that. We have roughly 8 minutes. Anyone who has comment or wants to speak, each person can have 1 minute according to our school board endorsement vote rules. Do I have any takers in the audience? Or against? Anybody? Barbara Cannon.
Me again. Do I go up there? 1 minute, did you say?
Yes, ma'am.
I just could not be more excited to see Bethany Sutton be on our school board. She is tremendously experienced, as she has already outlined to you. She is, just as I talked about my current colleague, smart, thoughtful, caring, and she knows the job. She will be ready on day one. But at the end of the day, what you want in a school board member is someone who brings that background, that understanding of the needs of children, the understanding of Arlington and our values, and someone who understands, of course, our democratic values. I can't think of anyone better to serve on the school board next year than Bethany Sutton, and I hope you will support her this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Any other folks? Tony, anyone on Zoom?
1 second.
Nothing on Zoom? All right.
Motion closed. Call the question.
Thank you. All right, the question has been called, so we will vote on our motion, which was to endorse Bethany Sutton as adequately representing our democratic values. We've got we're voting in 2 places, so we're voting here in the room, and we're going to vote on Zoom. Tony, I want you to have people raise their hands, and if you can, just get a count of everyone who votes yes, and then give them an opportunity to put their hands down and let people vote no. So all those in favor of the motion in the room, please raise your hand. Okay, put those down. All those opposed, please raise your hand. And Tony, do you take your time on the Zoom room?
I'm going to give people a second to.
Yeah, I understand.
Let me know when you should.
Please go ahead and take the no votes now.
Okay.
We have 30 people on the Zoom meeting, so we're well over our quorum requirement. For those who are interested, I think roughly 50 voters in the room, although people have been trickling in. So thanks everyone for being here, and thanks for your patience in this important voting item.
Is it closed?
We have not closed yet in the Zoom room, so we're giving them a little bit extra time.
Not there yet.
Do you have any no votes?
I haven't gotten there. I got to record the record.
All right, we're going to close it in a second. Whether you have it or not.
Mr. Chairman, since there are about 50 people here and 30 people there, and everybody in this room voted yes, I think it's safe to say the motion carried.
Yeah,
Can you make an announcement to the Zoom for the no votes again? We just got the affirmative votes counted.
all right, so you just All right, all those who want to vote no on Zoom, please raise your hand. If you voted yes on Zoom, please lower your hand. If you'd like to vote no on Zoom, please raise your hand. And Tony will get a quick count of the no votes. All right, you just have a couple?
I mean, people have left their hands up who obviously are not voting now.
So I'm going to, and you can keep counting if you want, but I'm going to say the yes votes have it. And Tony, just wrap up that count as quickly as you can. All right. Next on the agenda, a moment everyone has been waiting for. I'm going to invite Corey Barton up to give us an update on our bylaws.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening and happy Pride for all those who celebrate. I'm going to give you a brief update on our work as a bylaws committee. I know it's of interest. Next slide, please. So if you've been following our work, you know that the bylaws committee met. We adopted permanent bylaws for the county committee back in April, which is the bylaws the county committee operates under currently. And if you remember the time, we discussed that if there were additional amendments or additional changes that folks wanted to consider for our bylaws, that the bylaws committee would update those in another process. So that is the work that we are doing currently. That work restarted in April, and the bylaws committee has met a couple of times. So what we did is divide our committee work into 4 different subcommittees. So we have a subcommittee that's looking at steering, we have a subcommittee that's looking at our county committee composition. We're led at steering. We have a subcommittee who's looking at, I love the moonlight. We have, so those committees are, subcommittees are looking at different parts of our bylaws. What the bylaws committee has also done at this point is adopted a work plan for how we consider those amendments moving forward. So what you can see on the screen here is, so right now we're June 1st. So the bylaws subcommittee have been meeting. They brought forward us a few recommendations for the committee in total to consider. They'll be considering those in future bylaw committee meetings. The steering subcommittee that's part of our bylaws committee felt that in order to make some recommendations to the county committee, they needed some additional feedback from our current steering committee. So at last week's steering committee meeting, our steering subcommittee folks who sit on the bylaws committee gave a presentation about the steering committee to our steering committee. There's a lot of steering committees in this. I apologize. And received a lot is to have a draft report that sort of outlines our work, what we've considered, what we've disposed of, what we're recommending for consideration with the adoptions of the county committee. We're hopeful to have that at our June steering committee meeting, and then followed by a presentation to the county committee meeting. In July, what will be happening is we hope to have some listening sessions where folks can come give their feedback directly to the bylaws committee. We know there's some interest in our work. Some folks like to give survey feedback, some folks like to give that feedback more direct. So those opportunities will be forthcoming in July. You can hear more about those. And then we're hoping to present that final report in July also, so folks will have time to look at it and consider it and think about how they would like to vote. And then I should preface this with all by saying this is all tentative. My philosophy in all this work is that we should do it right. We should do it expeditiously, but we should also do it right and take our time. So that's what we're trying to do. And then I think if all goes well, we'll wrap this up sometime in September. So that's a little bit about where our bylaws committee is currently. I will say if you want to give feedback, as I mentioned, there will be, I think, a survey that will be distributed to the county committee, and there will be listening sessions that will take place in July, which will be getting more information about those. So I'll stop there and see if there are any questions. We have other things in the agenda, but I'm happy to take some questions. Yes?
You're going to have the survey and the listening sessions in the middle of summer when this place clears out?
Well, we've received quite a bit of feedback already, so the feedback opportunities we're having now is for the folks mostly who haven't had an opportunity to give that feedback. Some of the people who've been more interested in the bylaws have already gotten some of that feedback in. So I think those opportunities will be available throughout the summer, so there's multiple ways to give that feedback.
I thought that the committee's workings were closed, it wasn't open to the public.
No, that's not, I haven't relayed that, but no, our work is still ongoing.
You guys said that at the last, I asked you at the last meeting, down at Brew, and you said, no, these meetings are closed to the committee.
I mean, for voting, people who are voting as a committee, those folks are the only folks voting, but if you want to know where we work, I'm happy to talk about that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Before you have it, both a form and a process where committee people can come in and speak.
Yeah, correct. So Steve was mentioning the survey feedback form. If folks want to prefer to give feedback that way, that form is available to everyone, and we'll send that out in some communications, get that out to people who are interested. And in the forums, you'll be finding out information about that. So I'll turn it back over to you, Steve, if there's any questions.
Okay. Thank you so much, Corey. Corey has done a phenomenal job on the bylaws committees. Thus far, it's been a monumental task, and we do welcome feedback. So, Andrew, look forward to hearing your comments and questions.
It sounds the exact opposite of what you guys said in the meeting, but I'll leave it.
We're moving pretty good, and now we have our functional updates. So I'm first going to invite precinct ops to come up and talk to us.
Okay, hello everyone. Who is excited to elect Bethany Sutton to school board in November and Kathy Grant to county board? I am absolutely thrilled. But before we can do that, we have the primary on June 21st. Next slide, please. Because we do have one race up for grabs, our congressional seat. So that's June 21st. Today is June 1st, which means this is 20 days away. This past week, we asked our precinct captains to go ahead and start recruiting poll greeters. We will be outside greeting all of our neighbors as they go to vote. We're going to have 2 shifts, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Tuesday, and then that evening from 4 to 7. We find that these are the times when most of our neighbors vote, and recruiting volunteers on primary day has been really fertile ground for us, so we'll be asking people as they leave their polling place if they want to sign up and do any of the numerous volunteer activities we have between now and November to help our local candidates to go beyond Arlington to register voters. So if you want to poll greet, it is my personal favorite volunteer activity in ArlDems. If you want to poll greet, find me, find Fran, or connect with your precinct captain. But if you don't connect with us today, it's okay. We will be hunting you down either way. Next slide, please. Okay, this is our only other announcement for today. Our precinct ops member of the month, back there in the yellow shirt, is David Van Wagner. For those of you who haven't had the pleasure of meeting David, he is a precinct captain in Ballston. He also wears another hat. He serves as an area chair in central areas, and he's always greeting voters, and he's always volunteering with a smile. You're most likely to find him registering voters outside the company donuts. I don't know if he has ulterior motives there, but he also helps out at Penrose Square. And on top of that, he's a very active member of our MEBS working group that try to help us improve outreach to folks who live in multi-unit buildings. So, and he makes really good cornbread, which we found out at our precinct captain picnic this past weekend. So if you need a recipe, hit him up. That is it for me. Please, please, please volunteer to work at the polls for an hour on June 21st so that we can get a lot more folks to these meetings and helping out. Thanks, y'all.
All right, next up, outreach and visibility. Alexander Ritchie, I believe, is here, and some of our caucus representatives. Come on up.
Yeah, please come join me. Any of you who are here to represent a caucus or a visibility group. Do we have any? Are we going to move on to the other slides? Oh, there we go. Okay. Thanks. I wasn't sure if we were preserving the same order. So, as Jonathan already introduced, Happy Pride Month, and we have a lot of great activity happening in our Equality Caucus. We hope that you will come and join for those various activities. Join the meeting. As mentioned, it's a small but dynamic team, so if you have any time to spare, please contribute in any way you can with ideas and resources. Just remind you again how to find out more information. For AAPI caucus, we are currently in need of a chair and a co-chair. We've interviewed a potential candidate who's very promising, so we hope to fill that chair position soon and then fill out other leadership roles over the next couple of months. The most recent event that the AAPI caucus held was in partnership with the Democratic Asian Americans in Virginia and the Arlington Young Democrats was the AAPI Heritage Month happy hour. So you see all these wonderful folks featured here. I believe this was in Crystal City, and Delegate Kathy Tran was with us. Okay, and as our Deputy Chair mentioned, June is also month of Juneteenth, so the Arlington Black Caucus, this is the way to reach them, and we have a, next slide please. So this is our flyer announcing the Juneteenth event, so this is going to be held from 5 to 8 p.m. as Mike mentioned, so we hope to see you all out there. The weekly meetings for the Black Caucus are Thursdays at 8 p.m. So please reach out if you'd like to join, or just even as an occasional guest for specific events and activities. Okay, our Disabilities Caucus update is that, oh, I'm sorry. I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Alexandra. Hi everyone, I'm Michael Angeloni. I'm the Vice Chair of the Arlington Democrats Disabilities Caucus. Before I get to this update, just wanted to say, I mentioned this at last month's meeting, but this is going to be my last in-person meeting here, as I'm moving to Maryland and bought a house with my husband. So just want to say thank you to everybody here for the last 4 years. It's been a fantastic 4 years here with the Arlington Democrats. First time I came to a meeting, y'all got me involved on Matthew Ferranti's campaign, and is Barbara still here? Oh, back there, sure. And you got me involved in Barbara's campaign, and it's been like this ever since. And just to know that I even helped a little bit with the Arlington Democrats and getting Democrats elected here has been a joy. So thank y'all so much. And we're leaving, I know I'm leaving the caucus in the capable hands of Daniel Davis, our chair, who's right there. Now that we've got all the gushy stuff out of the way, I promised I would not get emotional, and I'm going to stick to that. So our next meeting, actually that's actually not correct. Sorry, can you go back one slide? Thank you. Our next meeting is going to be on the 19th, not the 26th, I believe, James, correct?
I think, well, I have to look at my delegate book that does. Hold on 1 second. I'll hold it up.
Anyway, our next meeting this month, we'll get to the exact date, but Delegate Patrick Hope is planning on joining us to talk about what we saw in the previous legislative session, things that's going on with the budget, relating to people with disabilities, etc. So stay tuned for that meeting. You can find that update on our Facebook page, Arlington Democrats Disabilities Caucus. That event will be coming up very soon. Next slide. Yeah, so like I just said, we have Patrick Hope coming to discuss the state budget. At our last meeting, we discussed holding an event for the anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, in July.
26th. It is
the 26th. Thank you. So our event will be on the 26th with Delegate Hope. Thank you, Daniel. So yes, we are currently planning an event to celebrate the ADA anniversary, the signing of the ADA in July. If you're interested in helping out with the planning of that meeting, please let myself or Daniel know. And also, we are developing a plan right now to advocate for better transportation possibilities for people living with disabilities in Arlington. That was a big discussion we had last month on transportation. If you're interested in helping out with that, please contact Daniel or myself. Also, to let everyone know, as with the announcement I just made, we are currently looking for 2 positions within our caucus, one being the vice chair. I will be staying on for vice chair for a few months, but hopefully bring someone new on sooner rather than later. So if you're interested in stepping up in that role, please let me know. And we're also looking for a communications director. So if that is something that interests you, please let me or Daniel know. Thank you all very much.
Get used to doing these meetings live again. So next I want to introduce Fatima Argun, who's going to speak about our Interfaith Outreach and Advocacy.
Let's see if I can get this on here for these short people. Okay. All right, snap it on there, I guess. One more. Can you guys hear me? Yes. Okay. Well, we've got a bunch of things going on with Interfaith Outreach and Advocacy. The main event, of course, is we are getting ready to do our 5th annual Interfaith Meet Out Loud celebration. And this year, the tentative date, we've come up with a tentative any other Arlington Dems events, any fundraisers, anything else going on. And I see somebody who used to be part of our caucus here. Hey, how are you? It's you. Say hi. Never mind. Sorry, I can't remember your name, but
I'm confused.
No, that's you.
Me?
Yeah. Jafar, I'm sorry. Like, I had a mind freeze, but well, welcome back. So anyway, the tentative date for our Eid celebration, Interfaith Eid celebration, is Monday, July 18th at 6:30. I'm going to try and have it here, but again, that will be updated once I get a confirmation. The biggest announcement I have for that right now is that we are in desperate need of volunteers. I cannot do this alone. It's a big event. It's going to be a wonderful party, as it has been in previous years, at least pre-COVID anyway. And I really need people to help out with a lot of different things, including the venue, which is just about done, but I need entertainment. We're hoping to have music, comedian, speakers, nonprofit participation, voter registration, AFAC coordination, AYD participation, other caucus partnerships. There's a lot of moving parts to this, so I'm really going to need a lot of help. If you could, I really need volunteers, so at the end of the program, or reach out to me at Interfaith Caucus at arlingtondemocrats.org. I would really be grateful for your help. So just another couple of things. One of the things I haven't really done in the past is talk about a lot of the stuff I do outside of Arlington Dems. even though I actually represent Arlington Dems at many of these events, so I'm just going to throw out a couple of them here. One of them is that I'm moderator of a panel on feminism and Islam and Judaism for the Jewish Islamic Dialogue Society. I happen to be the vice president of that organization. And this was during Jewish American Heritage Month. So, also on advocacy, one of the things that I am involved with a group called Jamaat, another interfaith organization in the area, is that I signed Arlington Dems as a signatory onto the Title 42 letter to the Biden administration asking Biden to repeal Trump's COVID-related border immigration. My understanding is they're now planning to wind them down starting in May, so that's what I've been hearing so far. Okay, so coming up, the Virginia Interfaith Power and Light organization. I'm going to be working, as I mentioned, I work with a number of other organizations, including advocacy organizations, multiple congregations. It'll be a day of action to address environmental justice, September, October 2022. We'll be providing more details as they become available, so look out for that. Finally, in the area of advocacy, I'm working with a couple of other community faith-based organizations on gun violence-related action. We're going to be marching, definitely the March for Our Lives. I hope many of you also will be. It's June 11th, I think. So I'll be marching with the faith-based organizations in that. Next slide, please.
We're having a technical issue.
Well, I can't really talk about that. The pictures kind of really say it all for that next one. Oh, there it is. Okay. Did you guys see the first two slides? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so as I mentioned, one of the things I haven't really been talking about previously is a lot of the work that I do in the community that is not directly Arlington Dems related, but I represent Arlington Dems at. And this one was the 8th annual Imam Rabbi Summit. And what do they do at this summit? Well, we talk about lots of ways that we can work together towards social justice and on a number of different levels. And this year it was held at Halal Sanctuary in Darnestown, Maryland. They were wonderful hosts, and as you can see, it was held outside. We had a number of breakout groups, so we were able to talk about some of the issues in depth. And that's how we come to understanding of our common purpose in this world and bringing together communities and working together on social justice related issues. So that's it for now. Again, I really need volunteers. Please come and see me out here.
Thank you, Fatima. And next, I'll be introducing Kevin Saucedo-Roche, who will be speaking about the great work of our Latino caucus.
That I want to highlight today was the primary project that the Latino Caucus was engaged in during the month of May, which is our joint effort with the voter support team to get some voter registration done in the Latino community here in Arlington on Wednesdays and Saturdays. We had a whole station set up in Arlington Mill right outside the Mega Mart down there. Those of you who know South Arlington should be pretty familiar. I really want to commend both the voter support team and Sandra Calixto. I'm not sure if she's here. I thought I saw her, but maybe not. Just for all the work that they did for putting that together, it really was an incredible effort. We had a lot of great interactions with people from all over the community. We got some folks signed up to vote, but we also just got some information out to other members of the community who needed it in various ways, and it was a very valuable experience for us as well, very rewarding experience. So I just really appreciate everyone who did come out and who participated in that. And I wanted to, just like Fatima did with the Interfaith Caucus, I just wanted to highlight that we really would love volunteers. We really would love anybody who's interested in expanding the work that we're doing with reaching out to not just the Latino community, but I want to plug all the other caucuses too. I mean, these caucuses really are the building blocks of what the party is doing here in Arlington. And if we want to bring more folks into the party, we need boots on the ground. We need people who really believe in the mission of the Democratic Party to get out into these communities and to convince other people to believe in the mission of the Democratic Party. So I really hope that if you have any time at all, this goes out to everyone on the internet too. If you have any time at all, just please join us and be a part of our work. And then on the next slide, we should have a couple of pictures. So there you go, just highlighting how much fun we had. And again, just thank you to everyone who came out. So.
Thank you, Kevin, for all the great work that you're doing. And next I'm going to introduce Brian Coleman, who's going to be speaking about our Arlington Democrats, Veterans, and Military Families Caucus.
Hi everyone, I'm just going to keep this short. So at our caucus meeting on May 18th, we just discussed just some old business we had and what the caucus was looking to do moving forward, especially as we discuss elections coming up and what candidates we'd like to support and what efforts we really need to put forward on. So we have a lot of energy going towards Elaine, Gloria, and Abigail Spanberger. And if anyone is interested, please, we really need more help because these candidates really need our support. And if you have the time, please reach out to me or Charlie or anybody here to get more information on how to get involved and volunteer. If you're interested in joining the caucus, of course, here's the information. But we also have information regarding our food pantry donation board, which is actually right behind everyone in the back. So if you have any donations you'd like to make, please go, again, reach out to me or Charlie to make some donations. We're still taking them for the foreseeable future, so we really appreciate it if you donate whatever you have there. We're also looking for people to go with us to Philadelphia with outreach, and if you plan on going, please reach out to me or Kip here. I'm actually going to be going to Philly this year. It's in July, I believe. And if you'd like to go, please reach out to anybody from the outreach team. And thank you so much, and we hope to have more volunteers to come out and really push for what we believe in.
Let's congratulate Brian again for being our membership. I don't believe we have anyone here from our labor caucus, so I will just go ahead and read this. So the next labor caucus meeting will be held on June 3rd at 6 p.m. We are continuing to support the unionizing efforts at Starbucks, Union Kitchen, and now Movement Climbing Gym as well. We're pushing to expand good-paying construction jobs and apprenticeship opportunities in our county. The caucus also attended the rally for county employees. If you would like to join the Labor Caucus, these are bi-weekly meetings that are held on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Please email Keith Willis at the email address you see here to join the mailing list. And let's see, Blue Families? No? Okay. So the Blue Families, postcards. We have postcards for Spanberger. Please sign up at this email address, arlingtondemocrats.org. Start making a difference now with Blue Families postcards. We also have postcards in the works for Elaine Gloria, so look out for more messages about that. There are also, Blue Families is organizing canvassing trips to Spanberger's new district. as well as trips to Pennsylvania. Okay, I will share the grassroots organization.
The wrong slide.
Yeah. Okay, so for our grassroots organizations, our own caucus is doing a lot of this work, but we also keep tabs on what some of the other grassroots organizations are doing and see where we can align our interests. So the grassroots organizations under the auspices of Virginia Grassroots Coalition are organizing phone banks, canvassing, fundraisers, etc. in support of the candidates for 2022. Grassroots members are also active with various rallies, petitions, and various calls to action in support of gun violence prevention legislation and in support of reproductive freedom and abortion access. And then please keep an eye out for more information on the 6th Annual Women's Summit, which is organized by Network Nova. This year it will be taking place over 3 different weekends in June, August, and September, each in a different location in Virginia. Attendees can join the festivities in person or virtually. Next slide, please. So, now, an area where we have great need and also great opportunity. So this is on the visibility side. We have a lot of people who enjoy our farmers markets, but we really, really, really need volunteers to help be the face of Arlington Democrats and give out a lot of great information to new and current voters in our community about what we're working on and sign up more volunteers. So this, you can't really see it on this slide, but we have farmers markets in Courthouse, Columbia Pike, Ballston, which we may or not be able to continue staffing. Same with Marymount, Fairlington, Lover Run. So if you have the time, the inclination, if you love talking to people, if you love the energy of farmers markets, please get in contact with me or Sangeeta and anyone else, leadership, so that we can sign you up for farmers markets. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
I just had another announcement. Whatever before you.
Oh, okay. And do we have anyone from Beyond?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Alexandra. All right. We're going to move. That's up.
Yeah, I just had a really quick announcement.
Maybe quick.
Yeah. Did I mention that I need volunteers? Yeah. Seriously, I forgot to mention that our next meeting is going to be on June 5th at 1 p.m. It's going to be by Zoom. So I'll be sending out an announcement in the Zoom link. So I just wanted to announce that. Sorry, I forgot. Thanks.
Now, hopefully we'll get our slideshow back up. We're going to have former chair Kip Malinowski talking to us about Good evening, everyone. How you all doing? Excellent. So I'm Kip Malinowski, and I used to do things, and I still do things. And among those things that I do, you've heard about all the great things going on in Arlington, but there are actually great things we can do beyond Arlington, too. And so much of what we've heard about tonight on protecting abortion rights, on protecting and fighting for equality, on protecting climate change, on standing up for my students, the 200 or 300 students who walked out earlier this week to protest gun violence and gun safety. It's good to get angry, but it's we don't want to stop there. We need to take that anger and put it into action. And the good news is that there's so many things that we can do. So we have a great team with Beyond Arlington. We're putting forward just a wonderful set of different opportunities. Richard Skinner's done a great job putting out these emails with the help of Paul Ashen and Rose Fabia and Charlie Conrad and a bit for myself here too. But we got a couple slides here of some of the things that we've been doing. So all these different ways, again, with Blue Families, the postcards can make a big difference. And then I just want to emphasize again that the margins matter so much. 2 votes per precinct can determine who wins a race. Who wins a race can determine who wins the legislature. That majority rule, those votes at the margin, make that difference, and we have the opportunity to do it. So we did it this last weekend with some canvassing. There was Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger. We had a ton of volunteers out there.
Unfortunately, there were not a whole lot of voters at home, but we left lit for them. We had some good conversations. But we're doing this every Saturday, every Sunday. It's a 30-minute drive. We can carpool. We can get down there. We can hit those doors. If you haven't done it, go with us, and we'll show you how it's done. It's pretty easy, and it can make a big, big difference, especially when they say, can you remind all your family and friends to be voters too? We need everybody voting Democratic. Whether you love Democrats or you hate Republicans, you're welcome here. We need you to make a difference here and knock at some doors. Next up, so that's on Saturdays, and we've got various locations from which to do this. Next slide. So Pennsylvania, not happening in June, but July, we definitely want to make this happen. Because we can go up there, because we can knock not only for the Senate candidate, John Fetterman, and the gubernatorial candidate, Josh Shapiro, but we can knock for all the Democrats for Congress and state races as well. And we've got Coleman for Elaine Lurie, and hopefully we'll make a trip down to Virginia Beach to knock some doors. Charlie Conrad will be our point person on that, too. And calling. Believe it or not, there are still people who answer their phone. And when they answer the phone, sometimes they don't hang up. Sometimes you can make a connection. And sometimes with that connection, you can find another voter. And they can find some more voters. And if, like I did this last Sunday, calling Pennsylvania, I found another volunteer for the Pennsylvania Democrats. We can do this. We can win these races. The winds are blowing against us, but we can call. We can knock. We can send postcards. We can have those meaningful conversations with voters to make a difference so that we're defending abortion rights, so that we're defending gun safety, so that we're fighting for equality, so we're fighting for climate change. So we can make this action. So please join us. If you don't want to do any of that, texting. And don't worry, you don't have to have big, clumsy thumbs like myself. You don't have to worry about that. There's a little computer app that will do it very, very, very quickly. So that's something you need to do. So if you want to do texting, phone calling, door knocking, just do something. We've got to elect Democrats, not only here in Arlington, but all across the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Kip, and we'll have Arlington Young Democrats.
All right, good evening, everyone. So, next slide. So, first of all, this is the update for Arlington Young Democrats. On the 12th, we had our abortion stigma training with Planned Parenthood of Virginia. And special thank you to Katie Sanchez, who is our Planned Parenthood advocate. Next slide. We also had our candidate forum with Congressman Don Byer and Victoria Bader Singh on the 17th. And also we had a candidate announcement from Bethany Sutton. Next slide. Finally, on the 21st, we had our voter registration happy hour at Four Courts. Big special thank you to Four Courts. Next slide. And then finally, our big API happy hour with the Democrat API group and the Arlington Democrats API. Sorry. Especially with our guest Delegate Kathy Tran, and it was at Rincon off Columbia Pike. Next slide. Also, of course, we put up this. We extend our wholehearted sympathies to the entire community of Uvalde that is grieving, to the families and the friends who lost loved ones, to the victims of Buffalo, Southern California, and sadly tonight, most recently, Tulsa, which happened so far. Currently 3 dead, what we've heard. We also plan to go and be at the March for Our Lives on the 11th. To go in and call on our elected officials to combat gun violence. Next slide. And then for this coming month, we actually have a very busy month. First of all, the March for Our Lives on the 11th at 10, followed by Capitol Pride Parade at 3, 2-for-1 special. Then we have the Veterans and Foreign Affairs Caucus Happy Hour at Rebellion on the 14th at 6. Followed by the Arlington Dems Black Caucus and AYD Juneteenth celebration on the 18th at Jenny Dean Park at 5. Finally, there's going to be a primary watch party on the 21st at 7 TBD. And then the Arlington Pride Parade on the 25th at 12. And finally, a Pride happy hour at Freddy's on the 28th, 7 p.m. All are welcome. And that's it.
Last but not least, voter support. Woo.
Hi everyone, my name is Kevin McCaffrey. I'm this year's voter support chair. Some of you have met me before. This will be very fast because we have wrapped up our spring voter registration drive. The last day for registration in time for the primary election was yesterday, May 31st, 3 weeks out from the actual primary. So anyway, we had a voter registration drive. The Latino Caucus mentioned some of our efforts, happy to work with them. Precinct Ops mentioned some of our efforts, happy to work with them as well. A few highlights here. Yeah, we're happy to get new registrations, kind of the holy grail when we go out. People say, yes, I want to register right here, and I'll sign the form, and I'll entrust it to you. And we take it, following procedures, and turn it into the registrar. We had a few of those. We had many more other positive exchanges, people looking for information, not knowing there's a primary, wanting to know how they change their address, and so on. One of the things that we did, and a number of you may have joined because it was well attended, we had a voter registration training with the county that we did, so some of us can learn how to be certified to take those ballots. And so now a voter, you can register to vote all times during the year, but our efforts tend to be in the spring before the primary and in the late summer, fall before the general election. So in the meantime, before those fall efforts, we'll be sort of rethinking, looking for best practices, looking for ideas. So please let me know if you have any of that. And next slide, it's just a picture, I think. If we don't have it, that's fine. There was wanted to give a special shout out to all the volunteers who helped with the voter registration efforts. In particular, if she's not there, it's fine. It's Colleen McCool, so thank you so much for all of your efforts. I don't think she's here, but so many efforts, and got we were planning to do Saturdays at the Mega Mart, as Kevin, the other Kevin mentioned. And Colleen set up Wednesdays as well. So we had 4 Wednesdays, 4 Saturdays of Spanish-speaking presence throughout May. So anyway, that wraps up our kind of spring voter registration season, and more to come. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you, everyone, for hanging in there tonight. Looks like we're finishing up a little bit early, so thanks again for being here. Remember, June 11th, March for Our Lives, June 12th, the Pride event. Remember to help Planned Parenthood all summer long. Remember to sign up for a shift for our primary election day with precinct ops and your precinct captains. I look forward to seeing folks, I think, maybe back here in July. And excited that we're filling out our ballot a little bit. Bethany Sutton for school board, Matt T. Brandy for county board. A little more ways to go, but thanks again, folks, for being here, and thank you, Kip, for that great message on how to turn out those marginal votes to win these races. We'll see you guys next month.
Did you get my draft?
I did. In fact, I showed to the left.
Like, I felt like I was like reading Jamie's presentation, and I was like, oh, like that's a carbon copy or something. I had to
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a look at it. I'm going to suggest some edits and track changes. And then we'll agree on something. And then I'll give it to them I just ask them to scan just to make sure
Yeah, I would be pretty surprised if they said no based on the presentation.
Yeah, exactly. This is like a final show. The only thing I can see, just based on like visual, like scan doc, is even if you got it right, you do need to like just trim down.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Well, like I said, like I wanted to have more out there so we know exactly what to trim.
Hey, I don't accept. When I looked at it, I'm like, oh my god.
Yes. Well, but like being like so deep. Congratulations, Sarah. Thank you very much. But yeah, being so deep in the field, like you don't always know exactly what to trim. You don't know about it to understand. So I just wanted to like just sort of break down. Yeah. Okay, good.
We'll work to just trim it a little bit. I have to also make it work in a way that's going to be understandable and digestible to the team who has to like take that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm perfectly happy and willing to help with that. I didn't want to like jumble that out now before we decided on the minutes. But yeah, I basically just use it.
Nope, I know.
So, yeah.
You did it.
It makes it easy for us to go through, and then we can go back in that direction.
Like the one example is like in terms of credit because it's so long. Is like the call to action. I think I'm gonna have the call to action posted on the page. So we'll do like a paragraph of it, and then like a little more.
We could even make a quote, like a nice quote from it, and fold it, and italicize it. Yeah, I think that's good. Especially because it's already on the website. We just like to the call back on the website. And I did try to trim down the facts and like keep the federal law